Hello. Welcome to this talk on reaching operational excellence using, OpenTelemetry. Question, anybody heard about the term operational excellence before? Or a little bit? So for who is it a completely new term? It was for me as well when you joined RootScanner. My name is Chatzizacharias.
My name is Riccardo Lippolis.
Yeah. And we have a similar background, not entirely, I would say.
We're both kind of multilingual, you might say.
Mudbloods.
Sorry?
We are mudbloods.
Yes, in multiple ways. So I have an Italian background, but I was born and raised in the Netherlands. Alex has a Greek background, so you can already understand that there might be some...
Now, we don't like each other, do we?
Yeah, okay. You can put it like that, indeed. But also in the technology part, Alex comes from a .NET background, so...
Microsoft Java, right?
But we both ended up liking Kotlin and working.
So who here works with Kotlin? Okay.
Nice.
Who here really likes Kotlin? Okay. I think we both pretty convinced it's the better way to code on the GDM, right?
We agree on the
we do not agree on a lot of things. But that one. Also, who here has been in Italy, by any chance? A lot of people. Who here has been in Greece? Also, who here has been both? Oh, pretty much the same people. Who here prefers Greece over Italy? What is this? Who here prefers Italy over Greece?
Nice,
oh my God.
Nice. People of culture, you can see.
I think I'll let myself out now. Then again, are you sure?
Yes, they are sure. Let's continue.
We work at J-Driven.
Yes.
We like working there.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah. That's pretty true.
Nice. So let's skip the formalities. For
now. So you joined. We work at RootScanner. So J-Driven is a small consultancy in the Netherlands, and we both work at the Port of Rotterdam for a project called RootScanner, right? You joined there roughly a year ago now, and you could say our development styles are a little bit different. I really take to heart the credo: fail often, fail fast, right? Anybody else like that? You know, just try to fail as often as possible. You're not entirely like that?
I don't mind failing, but not just because I'm lazy.
Are you calling me lazy?
So I like quality. I know that, of course, there's always like time constraints or resource constraints, so we cannot make everything perfect, but I do feel like you should put some effort in what you develop and make sure that we're developing the right thing in the right way.
Yeah, so there was a clash a little bit between us, right? And then you introduced this term, the zero notification policy, that you, whatever happened, you didn't want any notifications on Slack or whatever about services failing, production issues, things like that.
And not just by muting the channel, of course.
Well, that is how I dealt with him, at least. Then we got a little bit, started talking a little bit about, how do you achieve this zero notification policy? What do you need to do? What do we need to do within RootScanner? That's a little bit when you started throwing the term around operational excellence, right?
Exactly.
So what is operational excellence?
Yeah, of course, it has a nice Wikipedia definition. So it's about a set of principles and tools that allow you to continuously improve and delivering value to your customers and improving that flow of value. So, of course, if you read this, it's a very project manager style of defining the term. Of course, we are probably mostly developers. Who here is a developer? Yeah, I assume so. So, of course, we want, what does this mean for developers? It's basically caring about your customer, caring about your production environment. Of course, not only production, there are other environments as well. Like you can also consider your build environment to be part of that, your build pipeline. It's about wanting to deliver quality and wanting to deliver working software to your customers and making sure that your customers are happy and that they are using your application to their liking.
Well, it's a little bit tricky, right?
Of course.
Who here has like an ops team above them? right? And the ops
Or
team
below.
is the one that takes care of observability and production issues, stuff like that. Not a lot. Okay. So who here, for who does this resonate a lot? Okay, also a couple of people. But I mean, it's a little bit tricky to care for your customers, right? When you're so far away from them, so to say.
Yeah, true. Of course, software development is a collaborative thing. We always have to deal with other people within your project. Sometimes you don't have you might feel like you don't have the responsibilities or the tasks or the tools to be able to do your job and to be able to care to that extent. But it's also something that you work together on as a team. Like if you have an ops team doing all the platform stuff, so you can call it an ops team or platform team, whatever, collaborate with them, and they are there to support you. And if you feel like they are more in the way and they're in between you and the customer, then that sounds more like a process issue within your software project.
Okay, and you also kept saying things like, yeah, the work is not done when the PR is merged, but especially in a workflow like Scrum. Who works in Scrum?
Or Scrum-ish.
Some people are like, yep, I do, but I don't want to show.
Or I don't know if I'm working, if it's actually Scrum.
Who likes Scrum? So one of our colleagues just went like this.
He knows how to do it right.
Yeah. But doesn't Scrum promote very much a user-based approach to software engineering? And that typically means when, PR is merged, you kind of forget about it?
Yeah, well, I mean, in Scrum or in Agile methodology, you have a thing called definition of done. And yeah, if you limit the definition of done to the point where you've merged your PR, or if you're doing truck-based development, just when you merged, when you pushed it to main, then that doesn't help here. So basically, a user story doesn't need to be marked as finished the moment you merged your code. There's a whole flow afterwards where you can gather feedback from the customers on your new feature while it's running in production. It doesn't have to be that strict. And that's basically the point we're trying to make here. It's care about what happens to your new feature after it's running in production for a while, you know? People are actually using it. And if not, then maybe you built the wrong thing.
Maybe unless it's broken.
Unless it's broken, yeah.
And in the end, it's about being reactive and proactive, right?
Yeah, so when I joined the Root Scanner project a year ago, we got messages like this. They were in a demo, we wanted to try to show something, and it didn't work. And we didn't even, this one. So we got these messages like, hey, things are not working. And it's not like what you want in your system, right? You don't want the user coming to you saying, hey, it doesn't work. So we added some alerting, but of course, just having alerting in place is not enough. You also have to have a process for it. So just having alerting, but ignoring the notifications in your channel is not the way to go. So the muting that Alex does.
Well, I mean, I told you back then, we just get too much. We get so many notifications and errors and warnings that you kind of become numb to it. I don't know if any other people. Okay, well,
yeah, that resonates very.
Yeah, that one resonates. And then I'm like, yeah. So, am I supposed to check every single one of them, or what is the balance?
Well, if you feel like you're overloaded with these messages, then try to eliminate the false positives. Try to find a way to triage through those notifications and make sure that you're able to detect the right issues. So I also noticed it at another customer or another client where I did a project where they said, yeah, our logs are so full of exceptions, we just don't look at the logs anymore. But that's not, I mean, it's a short-term solution, but it's
I mean, it helps with mental stress.
Yeah. But over time, what I did there in the project was to analyze the exceptions and just start at the top, okay, which ones are occurring the most, and then see, okay, is this false positive or is this just something that actually needs to be fixed? And you notice that over time, and of course it's a collaborative thing, you should not do it all by yourself, try to get your team involved. Once the notifications start going downwards, like less notifications, then the ones that do appear, they are useful. And then you can actually act when you get a notification. And ultimately, when you're getting more and more proactive, you can get in a state where you can fix things before the customer notices that it's broken, or in this case, we fixed it before they told us, of course.
You really felt good about that, didn't
Yeah,
you?
it was a good one.
So that's a little bit what operational excellence entails, right? It's about trying to limit the unknowns of your system.
Yeah.
Trying to make them visible to you.
Exactly.
And we do that using observability.
Yeah, that's the term commonly used to describe this process of making your limiting the unknowns in your system and being able to observe what happens with your system. Sometimes you'll see the term O11Y, that's basically observability, but Alex doesn't like this term.
Yeah, it's so weird. Anybody here that feels that they have observability nailed down in their system?
Oh, they have a good grip on their observability.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
Okay. Good.
we either. Neither.
I mean, it's a process.
It's a process, exactly. Yeah. It's an evolving process.
Exactly.
So yeah, we want to show you a little bit how you can set up some observability in your systems and how you can use, well, OpenTelemetry, spoiler alert, to do that. But we figured, I mean, we could just show CLI, whatever. But we're going to try to play a game with you, if that's okay. Hopefully internet will allow, and the Wi-Fi or 5G will allow us to do that. Otherwise, well,
let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens, you know. Got to take the chances. So we made an award-deserving game. Tracy Bird.
Exactly.
Anybody has played Flappy Bird before? Okay, so some people already know how the game works. Any gamers here? A couple? Okay, let's see if you can beat my high score. We've had some complaints about the game in the past.
I mean, it's a challenging game.
Okay, so let me start up the server.
Let's show the QR code that people can. We're first going to.
We have to talk about the architecture as well.
Architecture, yeah, of course. So yeah, we came up with a beautiful enterprise-grade architecture as well.
That's true.
We made it a bit more complex than it needed to be, of course, to show the power of observability and OpenTelemetry. What we did is we created a few different backend services, of which 2 are written in Kotlin and 1 in .NET. Our persistence service could have been a database, but we thought, okay, we just like Kotlin so much, we keep it as a Kotlin service.
Kotlin as persistence.
Yeah. Yeah. This could be interesting.
Yeah, I should send JetBrains a message.
So yeah, and then we have a game front end that basically communicates with our Kotlin backend, and we have an administration panel which communicates with the .NET backend. Yeah.
So it's polyglot by design, just basically to show you how you can use that OpenTelemetry can be used in polyglot systems in case you're using polyglot systems. And here is the moment you were waiting for, the QR code. Let's see if it works for me as well.
QR doesn't work, you can also go to the URL.
Tracybird.com. Yes, we went to the effort to actually buy the domain name.
Exactly.
Because we're pretty sure this is going to be a huge thing pretty soon.
Going to get that award any moment now.
I think once, twice, thrice, and then I'll play. Oh, there we go. You're already playing. This is all you. Going up and down. Tracy birding, Flappy birding.
Now Tracy Bird.
We have somebody is rocking the death the death high scores. Yeah, you're doing pretty well actually. Our the server is holding up.
Of course.
I did not expect that. I totally expected that we would just DDoS ourselves and it would just stop working. So we have 68 players right now. 70, more and more are joining. It's also a good way to know how many people are in the audience, roughly. So, do you like the game? Who likes the game?
They're too busy playing, so they cannot raise their hand.
Who thinks this is a way too hard game? What are you even doing? Yeah, we've heard that one before.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm a huge Dark Souls fan and Souls-like games. So everything I make is very hard. Though Oscar is doing pretty well. Nikita is doing even better. Nice. All right, I think we have quite a lot, probably quite a lot of traces right now.
You have some data, I think.
It's a little bit of data, so I'm going to stop this. You are allowed to continue playing if you want. I will not stop you. All right. So yeah, so we generated some traces, some logging, hopefully.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah. Before we go to that, maybe we just basically discuss what kind of information we gathered.
Yeah. A little bit.
So when people talk about observability, they often mention the three pillars of observability: logging, metrics, tracing. And we place the term three pillars between quotes because, yeah, it feels like if you define it like that you see these things as three separate parts, and also like if you have them in place, then you have everything. But yeah, if you just have a bunch of pillars, you don't have a temple yet, right?
So is this a Greek temple?
Yes. I mean, they call it a Greek temple. It's just, where's the roof?
The roof, yeah. Things happen. Let's keep it at that.
Yeah. So of course, probably the terms logging, metrics, tracing are known to you. Like, okay, who analyzes their logs in their applications? Metrics, traces. Oh, very good, very good. So, proud of you.
But considerably less tracing than the other two, right?
Yeah, that's true. Tracing is always like the lesser one of the two.
Even though it's very powerful, and we'll see in a bit why.
Yeah. So what we're trying to say is that with observability, it's not just about having these three things in place. It's about the whole ecosystem of all that data, which we call telemetry data, which also in our terms is kind of overlapping. You know, like logging is related to some feature or some user action, but that user action also causes some metrics to go up or down, and it also causes a trace to go through your system. So they're all linked together. And nowadays you see like more and more observability tools that integrate these three things into one overview. So we want to just make clear that don't see them as separate things, but as overlapping concepts. I think we can show maybe some
tracing.
Yeah, let's.
Spoiler alert. So these are.
Let's show the game dashboards. We'll dive into these ones later.
Right. So you generated 1,000 deaths in the 5 minutes we played together.
Yeah.
Maybe that is a little bit of a giveaway that a game is too hard. Nah, probably not.
Nah. I mean, the score to death ratio is pretty okay, right?
Oh, you just updated. A high score of 21. That's higher than me. 26? Ooh. What the hell? It's a bug. So, I have to say, who is Dave?
Look, I think it's this guy over here.
Oh. Nice. Oh, well done.
So you see here how a spike in a metric caused Alex to analyze it and then see, hey,
that is true.
Something went wrong. Let's investigate. And immediately we found the cause. So well done,
true.
Alex. You see how this works? And now we know what to fix.
Well, now I'm thinking, do I want to fix this, or is this the hack, the Super Mario hack, where you can go over the map, or not?
Let's call it a Super Mario hack. Yeah. So what this shows is that even though we're using technical logging and metrics to gather this, it can still be like business metrics. In this case, they are game metrics, related to the game that we developed, but in your application, you don't need to strictly measure the technical part, so like request duration or latency, stuff like that, which is of course also very important, but you can also make it more tangible and measure things that are actually relevant on a business level in your, right?
I think somebody else also discovered the bug.
Okay, let's...
Or not, or Bramley is just really good. Who is Bramley? Wants to stay hidden, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so, okay, of course, we talked about observability, how it's also like the process around it, but of course, we're here to discuss OpenTelemetry, so we're focusing on the telemetry part here.
So basically everything you just saw was gathered using OpenTelemetry.
Yes. Yeah.
So what is OpenTelemetry? Is it open source? Is that what it's open?
It's open specification, and it has a set of APIs, SDKs, and tools allowing you to gather these this telemetry data. It's an open standard which originated from a merger between OpenTracing and OpenCensus. Maybe you've heard of those terms. And maybe you also know the XKCD reference where they say like, oh, we have multiple standards, so we need to define a new standard that supersedes all the old ones. Well, I think in this case, it actually worked nicely. So the idea is that it's language agnostic. So if you have a diverse tech landscape, that can help. And it integrates with a lot of the more common telemetry apps and libraries. So it's the support for it is growing every day, and it's backed by the Cloud Native Computing Foundation. So that also shows that it's
a little bit of guarantee that
it's
here to stay, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So what does it contain? So it has three key components. Let's say. First of all, the data, the metrics, the logging trace needs to be generated. Of course, that's done by your application. And OpenTelemetry defines some tools that allow you to generate, like, to collect this data from your application. And in general, it does that in two flavors, let's say, where on the one hand, you have like instrumentation style, zero code way where basically out of the box, it works pretty neatly. So like you don't need that much setup, and immediately you get a lot of data collected for you. Where on the other hand, you also have a code-based implementation where you need to do a little bit of more configuration, but when you do that, you're also more flexible in what to gather. You can extend it, etc. So two flavors, let's say.
So anybody that already uses OpenTelemetry, forgot to ask. Okay.
A few people.
A few people, nice. So some people probably use it without them knowing, right?
There could be, yeah. So once we have the data, we need to export it. And again, that's logging, metrics, tracing. And typically they're referred to as signals, right? Your application is signaling something. It could be a log message or some metric going up or down. And that can be exported to some random tool. And for the exporting, there's also a collector which collects the exported data from your applications and then can centralize that and send it to some telemetry or observability tool, which we'll show in a moment.
And if we go back, so if we look at it a bit more technically, so the export step, so it collects all the signals, and where does it save them? How does it save them? Is that just a normal relational database, or?
It depends. As a consultant, of course.
Yeah, so we love that answer.
No, so the idea is that OpenTelemetry is very flexible in where the data ultimately ends up. Of course, depending on the type of data, some data store may be better suitable than others. For example, typically a lot of applications use something like Prometheus to store metrics, but you don't store your logging in Prometheus, right? You have other types of databases that are more suitable for that. So depending on the data, you can save it somewhere else. And the nice thing about OpenTelemetry is that you're able to centralize the collection and gathering of the data, and then in a central place define where that data goes. And it doesn't have to be one place. You can also split your data based on certain types or other...
So it's a quite flexible system.
Yes,
right?
Indeed.
If you want to, you can build your own exporters and collectors
Exactly.
on it. So.
Yep.
Do you want to do that?
No. I mean, it could be a nice exercise, but of course, a lot of people and companies are already spending a lot of time in that, so, and they do a very good job. So let's have a look at how
we did things
we did this.
In our award-deserving game.
Exactly.
So if you see us at the next Game Awards, make sure to vote for us. Yeah, so this was our architecture.
Yes,
and this
once
is
again, the architecture. And here is basically how we are collecting the data from our applications. You see a little OpenTelemetry icon near every service. Basically, that's an instrumentation agent that we added to, well, in the Kotlin backend to the JVM and in the .NET backend as a DLL. That gets loaded when the application starts up. And within our cluster, we added one more component, and that's the OpenTelemetry collector. This collector just gathers all the data that the application sent to it, and then exports it to, in our case, Grafana. So it might feel like a unnecessary indirection, right? Like, why can we just immediately send it to Grafana? Well, the OpenTelemetry collector is basically allowing us to centralize configuration. And of course, in this case, it's very easy. We just send everything to Grafana. But imagine you have maybe a complex IT landscape where services are not allowed to communicate to the internet. So you can make sure that the firewall only allows the traffic from the OpenTelemetry collector to Grafana. You only have to define that in a single place and not for every application. Another thing that's convenient here is that the OpenTelemetry collector allows you to filter data that goes through it. So if you, for example, have some logging that might contain sensitive information, you can prevent it from being exported, or you can export it to another server or application that's running within a constrained environment.
So you can obfuscate your user data.
Yeah, exactly.
If you want to.
If you want to, yeah.
It's probably a good idea.
And another thing, of course, is like if we decide to replace Grafana with something else, we only need to change the single point.
Yeah. So yeah, again, we chose Grafana in this case, but it's just
interchangeable.
Yeah,
that's it.
Exactly. Right. So let's take a look at what we generated in Tracybird. Wow. Not hacking.
They beat your high score.
Yeah. So now all the gamers are coming out. They're like, oh, I can cheat here. Okay, now it's interesting. Right. Yeah, they definitely beat my high score. And I don't know who not hacking is, but I have a feeling they'll just keep going. All right. So here we have basically all the span traces from the spans from well, what you're still doing, maybe. Of course, you can zoom in. Anything particular you want to show?
Yeah, just open a random trace, then we can see.
So we'll go over here, a few trace.
Yeah. So here, what we can see is that the Kotlin backend received a post request from a player that tapped the screen.
Yeah.
And we see some nice well, timelines, and we see also how this post request propagated through our architecture. So you see that in the timeline that ultimately the Kotlin service called the persistent service, and the persistent service processed it, and then when the persistent service was ready, the Kotlin backend also returned its response. And also within the trace, we can see that there are some attributes that are added to the trace. So it's also has some contextual information. In OpenTelemetry, they call this basically baggage as a as a general concept to define the contextual data belonging to logging, tracing, and metrics. So it's pretty neat that like this. For this to work, basically all we needed to do was add the instrumentation agent to the application. And what we did as a sort of an extra was also log extra tracing spans on our individual methods so that you can see the method calls as well in the trace. So we added the width span. Yeah, basically that's this one.
Basically all that was needed, right?
Yeah, it was not needed. We just added it as an. Oh yeah, of course you want to showcase your.
Sorry.
Alex has a plugin.
The issue when having your plugins for
Yeah. Oh,
IntelliJ.
accidentally it went up. Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, then again,
You can download it.
I showed an explosion.
You want to tell them where
Oh,
they
no,
can
it's
download
okay.
it?
But I showed an explosion. I was gonna show an explosion in when I'm at the talk. So yeah, you basically add with span, and that's how you create the.
Yeah. So if we go back to the trace 1 second, then we can see that next to the post request, we also see the controller method that gets called. So basically, by adding the add with span, it also gathers that data. And of course, you can also do it on service level or etc. etc.
So it's quite easy to just follow exactly everything that was happening, right?
Yes.
So we got all the way here.
You want to see who hacked it, right?
Yeah. And then, of course, you can quite easily go to the logs if you want to. And that is what you said in the beginning, that they shouldn't be viewed as 3 different pillars, but as a collective, temple with 3 pillars, a small temple. Because that is where the real strength is, where you can just from traces go to logs, from logs go to traces, from metrics go to logs.
Based on the question you're trying to answer in your system. Because, for example, not every bad interaction with your system will lead to a stack trace in your log. Sometimes it's just metrics that go wrong. They know how to hack your system.
So I don't know who is it, but are you continuously just having your phone in your pocket and just keep tapping? I mean, that is some dedication. I'm a little bit honored, to be honest. Yeah. All right. So that is a little bit how traces look like, how you can very easily implement them in your front ends, in your backends. What do these headers do?
Well, the player ID header is, of course, just something we added, but as an extra, we added some span attributes, so basically extra baggage to our requests, to our traces, and also logs, to show that you can also add some custom business attributes in your logging, tracing metrics. So if we go back to the traces, we should be able to see those player IDs in the resource attributes as well. Now, in this case, because it's just a demo, we added a player ID. Maybe in your case, in your application, an ID might be some personal information that you don't want to show in your log. So be careful what you use as attributes, of course.
All right. Yep. So that was tracing in a bit. Of course, you have metrics.
Yep.
So, for example, the death scores and everything you just saw in the dashboards. This one, well, of course, those are metrics, right? Of course, you always get your free
metrics here. Then we can
of course.
Let's start, and you see an overview of basically all the metrics you get for free just by adding the OpenTelemetry agent. So a lot of graphs, always nice.
You love graphs, don't you?
I love graphs. And typically they are like more technical things like request latency, the amount of requests coming in, etc., etc. But of course, in our case, because we created this game metrics dashboard, we also added some custom metrics. And because the Kotlin backend in this case was a Spring Boot application, we can use Spring Actuator, which uses micrometer, that one, to gather metrics. And the OpenTelemetry agent can automatically read these micrometer metrics and export them as well. So seamless integration there, pretty nice.
And I was just happy that we could have high scores and stuff like that in Grafana as dashboards. Because I mean, if you use Spring, you already have micrometer, right? Yeah. Much. Who here uses Spring?
Oh, nice.
Who here uses Quarkus by any chance? Ooh, a couple people. Oh, if anybody from Red Hat is sitting here, they're like, yes. All right. So you get a lot of metrics for free, and you can quite easily add your own metrics. So the last pillar left is, of course, logging, and that is typically what the developer sees the most, I would argue, right?
Yeah.
I would say if you're working on backend systems, logs is something you see every day, maybe every day, every single day, all day.
Maybe too much.
Maybe too
sometimes.
much logging. But instead of showing logging Tracy Bird, I figured, well, I'm a little bit of a metalhead. You are not.
I mean, I like metal when it's not too noisy.
To be fair, every song I've sent you, you're like,
Yeah,
what is
because-
this grunting?
Yeah, exactly.
Any other
Noise.
metalheads here? People that really hate, well, rock music more like.
Yeah.
People that like rock, a little bit more, so that's
Ah,
nice. So we're gonna play a little bit of, well, I like to call it log rhythm. Huh? 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 All right, let me get it started. So let's see how that works. It's a little bit of, also a little bit of social experiment, so to say. Anybody that ever heard of Twitch Plays Pokemon? So it was like this phenomenon online where a lot of people could play Pokemon together, and they would just submit controls and events, and it would go in a queue, and then the system would play those things, well, basically on the order. So that's a little bit what we're going to try to do now. We're going to try. We're going to try to jam together. So you'll need your phones again. Hopefully somebody won't find a hack in this one as well. And the idea is to play this little riff. So you can go there.
We didn't buy the logarithm.
No. We're still Dutch.
Yeah.
Even though we are mudbloods, we are. There we go. I'm hearing people already playing. So the idea is that you all collectively play this riff over here. So, and I see people playing the note, which is not part of the riff. So we have some people sabotaging other people.
Who would have thought?
What was the chance that we gave that this would work?
Rounded to 0, I think. Yeah.
Rounded down to 0. So anybody that just hearing these notes has an idea which riff this is? It is that messy, huh?
Who does not recognize this?
This beautiful piece of music. But then again, you can. This is how you all sound together. Which is. I've been to a concert like a year ago, and the guitarist was super drunk, and that is a little bit how he sounded. So I guess accurate. So I should probably stop it, otherwise we'll be continuing with this sound.
I don't think they're going to make it.
No, I don't think so either. Especially if people keep putting the note. But I will put on the song quickly. This is the full song. So who recognizes this? Pretty close.
Yeah.
Just a bit.
Yeah, it's almost the same.
All right. And then, of course, then we can take a look at the logs, because that is what we are here to do, of course. And here you can see basically Green Day. Very nice. Strumming away, and what's really cool, you have emojis in your logs.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
That is what you want in the end.
If you talk about killer features, this is,
yeah.
If we hadn't convinced them by now, I think now.
So if you go to your work tomorrow or Monday and you're like, hey, we really need to use this OpenTelemetry thing, and they're like, yeah, but why? But have you ever thought about emojis in your logs? It's the future, I tell you right now. But yeah, so it is pretty much how you would expect it. You have here the logs with basically whatever we're logging in the backends. I could show it a little bit. Log. Oh. And we can go over here. And here basically warnings or info. So pretty much exactly how you would expect it, right? So you write logs in your system and they appear in your log aggregator.
Exactly.
In this case, it's Grafana. Grafana is not necessarily the best logging.
No, I mean, we chose it because it had like logs, metric, and trace all in one tool, and it was relatively cheap. But I for production grade log exploration, I would recommend a different tool, I think.
And of course, you can take a look at your info, warnings, errors, etc., etc. So yeah, the people playing the wrong chords, we can see quite quickly that you're trying to sabotage the rest. All right. But of course, if you use the log, it's not super exciting or anything, but just know that you can very easily aggregate these and see these. All right. So with that, we've shown a little bit of the 3 pillars and how that would look like if you generate a lot of logs like we just did. Do we always need it?
I mean, not necessarily. Like ultimately, we care more about having the proper observability in place using whatever tool that works for you, right? So it's very convenient to use in case you have a very diverse landscape where the sources of your telemetry are like very different in technology or whatever, and you want to be able to aggregate that into a single source of truth. Also, of course, it's not only your applications doing the logging. Like, for example, you also can gain valuable insights from your cloud infrastructure, which also has a lot of metrics or information that you can gather. Another benefit is that you can be vendor agnostic, right? Like we shown earlier, if we want to replace Grafana by something else, we only need to change one part in the whole system, and the OpenTelemetry collector just sends the data to a different place. You can even send it to multiple places at the same time, so you can test different tools or continue using different tools for different means.
We don't like to be vendor locked in, right?
Exactly.
We don't like giving all our money to AWS.
Yeah, it's already too much. Yeah, and we also see the support growing for OpenTelemetry. You see more and more providers like observability tools implementing OpenTelemetry. So I just mentioned a few logos. Of course, you recognize the Dynatrace logo as we're in the Dynatrace room.
Yeah.
What a coincidence. But yeah, it's not an exhaustive list, but just to show that a lot of the big names already support it, and it's yeah.
Anybody uses any of these here?
Yeah. So
I have a feeling I know which one is going to be the most popular.
Exactly.
Who uses Elastic? Probably. Yeah.
Who knew that their tool was already supporting OpenTelemetry? Okay. A few. Okay, nice.
We taught something today.
Yeah. Hopefully, we now explain them what it actually means.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I mentioned that it's language agnostic, but depending on the language that you use, like some parts may not be fully implemented yet. So I just put the implementation status here. So you can look up your own language. I will not read it all. But just to show that in general, a lot of languages are supported and not every part of the OpenTelemetry specification is fully implemented. And I also wanted to mention that there are new specifications being added as well. So for example, one of the things they're working on now is profiles. So if you are interested in performance profiling of your application and you want to use the similar approach to like your other telemetry and see profiling data as a part of that, then if the specification comes out, then hopefully that will help in allowing you to also, for example, try out different profilers without changing any application internals.
So I'm really curious. Anybody sitting here that is not seeing their favorite language on the chart, on the table?
It's a trick question, right?
It's a trick.
Yeah, because Kotlin is not on the list.
Kotlin is not on the list. Yeah, it's true. Where is TypeScript? Oh, we said favorite language. But C# is there, and
yeah, one other point, real user monitoring, you might have noticed it on sheets. I don't know if people are familiar with a tool like PostHawk, or there are other tools as well where you can follow the way a user is interacting with your website. You see their mouse move on the screen and how they click through it. there are also mostly like proprietary tools, but the OpenTelemetry group is also working on a standard for that, so that also that data can be interchanged between different providers. So
and that's really valuable, because then maybe we would have found out that there was a hacker breaking the game on the front end.
Then we would see that he was outside of the world.
Outside the bounds.
Exactly.
Still curious how that happened, because I do check for it. Hackers, what you're gonna do?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, the first thing I told you when you started talking about OpenTelemetry is, but what about the performance? Anybody else that was thinking this during the presentation? What about the performance? A couple of people.
So then let me ask you, how do you measure the performance if you don't measure anything?
It's a gut feeling.
Yeah, so no, it's a valid question. In general, we see that using some observability tool, that especially like an instrumentation agent or some other code to gather the data, does have a small performance impact, usually like in a few, in the minor percentage, let's say. But I also feel like it's worth it, because you don't know how, if you don't know how your application is running, you don't even know if you have bad performance, right? And also, it's something that can change over time, like the amount of observability you have in your system. For example, if you have a new feature, you can add some extra measurements to measure stuff like the performance or like usage statistics of this new feature, and add extra logging. And over time, if you get more confidence in the feature or the part of your application, you can reduce the amount of observability needed. So you can reduce the logging. Typically, when I speak to developers, they're like, yeah, I don't want to add too much logging because it gets noisy. And then I'm like, okay, we can start with adding that logging, and then if we see like, okay, it's running smoothly, we can decrease it again. You know, so keep in mind it's a dynamic thing.
It's a living, evolving system. Yeah.
Yeah, so final words. There are many ways to reach operational excellence. For us, the most important thing is that you find a way that works for you, works for your team, works within the constraints of your project. We hope today, by showing OpenTelemetry, that you learn that you have the flexibility to change in different approaches, different providers, different observability tools. Using
that's what you hope.
I hope. Yeah.
I hope some people will reconsider their stance on Greece versus Italy. That's what I hope.
Okay, we hope different things. So thank you for being here with us today. Here are some of the links that allow you to either contact us or look at the presentation again, look at the code. If you have any questions, we only have 2 minutes left. We might try to answer 1 or 2 questions if there are any.
Going once? Yeah?
Yep.
I saw you have the dashboard and you have a lot of graphs there.
Yep.
What is the decision to go, I want to create this graph from the logs, or just go for metrics?
That decision, well, it depends on what you're trying to measure. Like, logs are showing textual information, basically the log messages, and metrics are generally used to measure numbers, let's say, going up and down. So yeah, defining which graphs you need to build to answer the questions that you have in your application, that's very project specific. We can hold a whole other talk about defining how to measure it. But the thing is, mostly it's a matter of starting to at least measure something and then expand on that. So if you don't know what to measure, just start by measuring different things and see, okay, where can I get the value that I need? And then gradually, maybe you can set some, like in terms of, like Google calls it, like service level indicators, service level objectives, and then ultimately you can get like service level agreements, you know? So you start with measuring anything you can measure, and then try to define, okay, this is the baseline behavior of my system, and then I can set like objectives. I want to keep my system running in the same way, and if it goes over this boundary that I want to have alerts. And if over time you have the confidence that you can remain within the objectives, you can say I have a service level agreement of an uptime of 99.999%, for example. But you don't start with that. Start with measuring, basically. I hope that answers your question. So we have 10 seconds left. If we have any other questions, then just come to us or
hit
reach
us up
on our socials.
Thank you.